Hey Ace Attorney fans, are you ready to get back in front of a bushy-bearded judge?
Yes!
Are you ready to cross-examine a new cast of always quirky and often witless witnesses?
Yes!
And are you ready to do it all as this guy?
Objection!
Wait, hear me out for a second. Sure, the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles is a prequel set more than a century before the original Ace Attorney games, and thus the likes of Phoenix Wright and Apollo Justice aren't even glints in the eyes of their grandparents' grandparents. But if my first few hands-on hours with the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles are anything to go by, then this plucky new defense lawyer seems every bit as charismatic, and his case is just as compelling as those in any of Capcom's previous courtroom capers. Although it also appears to bring along some of the same grievances too. The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles casts you as Ryunosuke Naruhodo, ancestor of Phoenix Wright, born well before the time that giving children pun-based names seemingly became mandatory in Ace Attorney's Japan. Ryunosuke is a second-year university student who's forced to represent himself in court after he's accused of murdering a British professor on Japanese soil. Ryunosuke is a fairly bashful barrister to begin with. His two-handed table slams are met with more of a comedic tap as opposed to a dramatic thud. But by the end of his first trial, he's pointing effusively and sweating profusely, just like a real Ace Attorney. He just needs to remember to zip up his fly. It's in Chronicles' opening trial that I got my first look at Ryunosuke's unique ability to shift his focus between multiple witnesses on the stand in order to pursue them anytime they give a visible tell during a testimony.
Excuse me!
This brings a more dynamic feel to cross-examinations, and apparently expands to full-on interrogations of the members of the jury once Chronicles' story shifts into England. It's there on the streets of London that Ryunosuke will also encounter the superbly spooneristic detective Herlock Sholmes, whose eccentric methods of deduction would appear to be more of a hilarious hindrance than a help. Yet writing Sholmes' faulty reasoning could well make crime scene investigations more puzzling than the fairly simple pixel hunts of the previous games. But at least initially, Chronicles presents a similar gameplay structure to previous installments in the Ace Attorney series, tasking you with pressing individual lines of testimony and presenting the right evidence at the right time.
Take that!
As each witness tries to wriggle free of Ryunosuke's grip. Despite the serious nature of the crimes, there's still a healthy splash of silliness to each examination. I managed to successfully argue that the murdered professor's last meal couldn't possibly have been a steak by presenting records from his visit to the dentist from earlier that day that stated he wasn't able to chew. I guess you could say the prosecution couldn't handle the tooth.
Shut up!
Okay, fair enough. Please have that joke stricken from the record. That said, Chronicles also seems to be occasionally burdened by the same tangled webs of logic that have bogged down previous Ace Attorney trials. For example, I'd figured out that poison was used in Chronicles' first murder case early on, but still had to jump through a series of logic hoops and dialogue loops in order to finally be able to present it and move the case forward.
Yes!
While the funny writing and consistently wacky character animations prevented the opening trial from ever becoming a bore, I hope the rest of Chronicles' cases bring some much-needed reductions to their drawn-out deductions. There is still a lot to litigate in the final Great Ace Attorney Chronicles package, since it features 10 episodes and roughly 50 hours worth of evidence gathering, witness interrogating, and convoluted courtroom toing and froing. There's even an option to play the whole thing in story mode, which solves all the puzzles and makes all the decisions for you. Personally, I don't think I'll choose to play the whole game in this passive way, but I can see how toggling it on and off might be a convenient way to automatically pass through some of Chronicles' more perplexing leaps in logic. For more advanced looks at upcoming games, check out our previews of Monster Hunter Stories 2 and Hot Wheels Unleashed. And for everything else, stick with IGN.